All right, so for this video, we're going to discuss how to write equations, not from a table like before, not from a graph, but from 2 points that lie on a line. So, and I think this is the last form of how we're going to learn how to write an equation. This is very similar to the very first thing we learned, which was how to write an equation from a table of values. But now instead of having a table of ordered pairs, you're only going to be given 2 ordered pairs. But you're going to do it pretty much the same way, guys, except with the exception of number 1. Because to write an equation when given 2 points, you need to follow the steps below. You're going to find the slope by using a slope formula. Now, you all are used to, with a table, the change in y over the change in x. And yesterday, you learned rise over run when you're given a graph. This was from a table. This was from a graph. But today, when you're given 2 points, you're just going to use the slope formula. All right, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Make sure you're taking notes for me, okay? So feel free to pause the video anytime and take notes. The second thing you're going to do is what you did before. When you found the, when you were writing the equation for a table, you're going to pick an x and a corresponding y from the 2 points. So basically, you pick one of the points. Why are you picking one of the points? So you can complete number 3. You can substitute m, x, and y into the equation y equals mx plus b, which is going to help you find b, your y-intercept, also known as your initial value. It's pretty much the same thing we've been doing. So that finally, you can write an equation by only substituting your m and your y-intercept here and here into that equation. So let's just go ahead and get started. So you all are used to having a table of values that look like this. And you would just do the change of y over the change of x. But instead of it being written in table form, it's just written as 2 points. But again, I'll be honest, you do it the same way. So what I'm going to do is find the slope using the slope formula. So this is x sub 1 and y sub 1. It's too thick. And this is x sub 2 and y sub 2. I noticed on somebody's quiz, and I don't remember whose quiz it was either. I saw something like x sub 1 and x sub 2. And then I may have seen something like y sub 1 and y sub 2. Don't do that. An ordered pair doesn't consist of 2 x coordinates. An ordered pair consists of an x coordinate and a y coordinate. X coordinate and a y coordinate. The only reason these have the little 1s on them is because it's the first ordered pair. And these have the 2 on them because it's the second ordered pair. But every ordered pair consists of an x coordinate and a y coordinate. That's why we have an x-axis and a y-axis. Okay? So I'm going to use the slope formula, which is the second y minus the first y divided by the second x minus the first x. The second y is 5 minus the first y, which is negative 2, over the second x minus the first x. So you're just applying what you already know. So in this case, we end up with 7 over 1. So m is 7. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is to pick an ordered pair. So, I'm going to pick negative 4, negative 2. You only got 2 choices to choose from, guys, okay? It's not like you got a whole table of values to choose. So just pick an x and a y. Pick one of the points. And the third thing you're going to do is substitute an m of 7, an x of negative 4. Let me write that better. And a y of negative 2 into the equation y equals mx plus b. So y is going to change to negative 2. Again, when this is mashed together, it's multiplication. M is going to change to 7 times X, which is negative 4, plus B. So we end up with negative 2 equals to negative 28 plus B. To solve for B, you're going to add 28 to both sides. You all should be very, very familiar with this. So we get 26 equals to B. So the equation just involves, did I write? It's just going to involve M and B. My equation is going to be y equals 7x because slope attaches x plus 26. That's my equation for 1. And I know what somebody's saying. Well, what about when you first wrote that table where I had x and y? Negative 4, negative 2, negative 3, 5. The change from negative 2 to 5 is positive 7. And the change from negative 4 to negative 3 is positive 1. You could have gotten your slope by writing it in table form. You still get a slope of 7. To be honest, it's actually a little quicker to me to put your points in table form and do the change of y or the change in x. Basically, you end up doing the same thing you did, I don't know if it was last Friday, last Thursday. All right, but I still want you to get used to using the slope formula from 2 points, okay? I'm going to erase this. Make sure you pause the video before I erase it. And I'm going to work number 2. All right, go ahead and write down the points on number 2. And some of you may notice something already. Here you have an x that's 0. If you have an x of 0, the corresponding y coordinate, which is negative 5, is also your b. It's your y-intercept. Okay. I know that. You all should know that because we learned that when we were doing the tables. Okay. But I'm going to work it all the way out using the 3 steps just to prove it. All right. So the first thing is to use my slope formula, the second y minus the first y over the second x minus the first x. Let me get rid of this. Excuse me. So this is the first ordered pair, and this is the second ordered pair. So my second y is negative 5 minus my first y, which is 2. My second x is 0 minus my first x, which is negative 4. So I end up with a slope of negative 7/4. Okay. The second thing I'm going to do is pick a point. I'm going to pick negative 4 too. I'll be honest, it probably would have been easier to pick 0, negative 5. But I'm going to do it the long way. The third thing is to take your m of negative 7/4, your x of negative 4, and your y of 2, and plug them into the equation y equals mx plus b. Y is 2, m is negative 7/4, times x, which is negative 4, I'm going to put it over 1, plus b. So we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive, and 4 times 1 is 4. 28 divided by 4 is 7. So when I solve for b and subtract 7 from both sides, I do get a b of negative 5. So you're going to take this, attach it to x, and then this, and write it next to it. But I'll be honest, instinctively, I automatically see there's an x of 0 right here. So since there's an x of 0, the y coordinate of negative 5 is also my b. And all I would have done is I would have completed step 1, and that's it. And I automatically had b equals to negative 5. And I would have written the equation. But if you don't notice that, guys, you got to do it the long way. All right, make sure you've written that down. And I want you all to pause the video and try number 3. All right, this is what you should have for number 3. I automatically see an x of 0. So the y coordinate of -2 is also my b. So I'm going to go ahead and put b equals -2. And then to find my slope, I'll just use the slope formula. X of 2, y sub 2. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x of 2 minus x of 1. The second y is 3 minus the first y, which is -2. The second x is -5 minus the first x, which is 0. So as a slope, I end up with 5 over -5, or m equals to -1. So my equation is simple. This attaches to x, and this doesn't. Or I could simply write -x minus 2. Either one of those will work. All right, let's take a look at number 4. Pause the video and write it down. All right, here you have x of 1, y sub 1, x of 2, and y sub 2. I don't see an x of 0, so I just got to use my slope formula to find m, which is my slope. The second y is -4 minus the first y, which is -1. The second x is 1 minus the first x, which is -5. So m is equal to -3 over 6. And I'm going to simplify that. So that's -1/2, guys. And I'm going to pick 1, -4. So I have an m of -1/2, an x of 1, and a y of -4 to write in the equation y equals mx plus b. So y is -4. M is -1/2 times x, which is 1. So I end up with -1/2 plus b. I'm going to write this as a decimal. It's just easier to understand. And to get rid of -1/2 or -0.5, I'm going to add 0.5 to both sides. These cancel, and I'm left with -3.5. If you don't know that, the decimal's at the end of 4. Subtract because they go in different directions. And there you go. That's how I got the -3.5. So the equation is y equals, that attaches to x, and b doesn't. So y equals -1/2 x minus 3.5. You could have also written that as -7/2. All right, and that's it. So make sure you have the video paused and you have written all of that. And go ahead and write down 5 and 6 and leave just a little bit of space, because there's shortcuts on 5 and 6. On 5 and 6, you have to commit some things to memory, okay? Now I'm going to show you something on 5 and 6, but you don't have to do it. You can commit to memory and just be able to look at these two ordered pairs and notice something. Okay, so I'm going to point out what I noticed already. My x values are the same. Okay, but let me show you what happens to the slope. We should already know what happens to the slope when the x values are the same, because you're going to get a certain x on the bottom, a certain value of x on the bottom. So you're going to end up with 4 minus 5, -3 minus -3. When you're subtracting the same number, you're going to get a 0. But you get a 0 in your denominator, which tells me that my slope is undefined. And if you all will recall, if your slope is undefined, you have to remember VUX. You have to commit that to memory. This means that you have a vertical line. It's in the shape of a vertical line. Your slope is undefined. And if you're writing the equation, it only has an x. Since my slope is undefined, I know this equation only has an x. It's going to be equal to whatever these x values are. So this equation is x equal to -3. All right, I'm going to show you something on this next one. These y values are the same. Somebody's saying, what's got an x of 0? I don't even care about that right now because my y values are the same. If my y values are the same, it tells me that I'm going to get a 0 on the top when I subtract and find the slope. Because you're going to have -1 minus -1 over -2 minus 0. So I end up with 0 over -2. So my slope is still 0. Committing to memory, hoy. If you see something with a slope of 0, it's a horizontal line. But this equation only has a y. So it's y equal to whatever these y values are, -1. All right, I'll just be honest, guys. If I saw that my x values were the same, I would just put x equal to whatever the x value is. I know it's going to be special. If I saw that my y values were the same, I would just go ahead and put y equal to whatever the y values were. I wouldn't do step 1. And this is what I'm saying. Suppose I gave you -7, 5, and 2, 5. Well, here I see that the y values are the same, so I'm just going to put y equal to 5 for the equation. If I gave you something like 4, -2, and 4, -8, I see that the x values are the same. I'll just put x equal to 4. I wouldn't even do step 1 in finding the slope. But again, it's totally up to you. All right, I'm going to go through a few graphs and tables